and that was the trailer. Hey guys and girls out there watching this video right now, welcome back to Dead by Daylight, and today we're playing the public test build for the new chapter, Portrait of a Murder, which contains new killer, new survivor, and a new map. So let's jump straight into it. First we'll look at the news. So chapter 22 PTB. So the content, obviously the new killer, the artist, new survivor. Is that Jonah? I don't know, just John Vasquez. And the new map, Eyrie of Crows. Right, so first of all, we'll jump in, look at the backstory of both the characters and stuff. And here is the artist. Damn, she's a pretty creepy killer. Look at that, Cycle Ink. Pretty cool backdrop, and really cool lobby music. It's sick. Okay. First we'll look in, see her info. That's her there. There are perks, we'll get to them later. 4.6, 32, and height is average, and she is intermediate. So, let's get straight into her backstory. Carmina Mora was a gifted artist who carried the guilt of her young brother's death. Growing up a rugged coastal village, Southern child, she sketched the sublime landscapes of Patagonia. Sitting outside, she painted dramatic fjords while feeding the crows nested in the tree next to the house. She grew up carrying the guilt of her mother's sudden departure. Her father blamed Carmina for her mother's abandonment, which added to her grief. She became the caretaker of Matthias, her little brother, despite still being a child herself. A year later, Carmina was painting with Matthias outside when the telephone rang. Her father remained in the yard, drinking his beer. Carmina rushed to the house to answer the phone and hung up a few seconds later. When she returned outside, Martina was nowhere to be seen. She asked her father, but he had paid no attention to Matthias. She called her brother's name, looking for him everywhere. While searching, she saw a bright red coat floating on the narrow creek by the house, Matthias's jacket. She jumped in the creek and found him floating on the surface with vacant eyes. Unblinking, he had fallen and drowned. Her scream tore the sky. Her father found Carmina sobbing on the creek shore, clutching her brother's body in her arms, surrounded by a murder of crows. Her father snatched Matthias' body away from her, and she cried until her voice broke. The following morning, the world was cloaked in darkness. Her father did not say a word, because he did not have to. Carmina knew it was all her fault. Months passed, yet her loss was as fresh as morning dew. Crippled with self-loathing, she could no longer paint. Without Matthias, life had no meaning. On the bleak morning of Matthias' birthday, Carmina walked to a narrow bridge several blocks from home. She was convinced that nothing could bring her relief. Her mother was gone, her brother was dead, and her father blamed her for it all. She was convinced that she had nothing left to live for. Carmina walked to the railing of the bridge that stood over the turbulent river. Locals had nicknamed the spot Death Leap. Several cars drove by Carmina, but none stopped. No one seemed to care. She climbed over the railing, and her legs wobbled as she stood on the lip of the bridge. She looked down, watching the fierce river smash into a giant boulder. She closed her eyes. See you soon, Matthias. Suddenly, a cacophony of caws filled the sky. Carmina opened her eyes and saw a black cloud of feathers flying towards her. The cloud split open, and glossy black crows dove from the sky. One landed on her shoulder and stared intently into Carmina's eyes, as if piercing into her soul. Her grip on the railing loosened, and the crows cawed raucously. Carmina stared at the crow, confused. Another crow landed on the railing, then another. Soon a flock of crows were covering the railing of the bridge, staying close to her. She felt their heavy stare on her, calculative and enigmatic, as if they were assessing her. She looked down for a second, and a thunder of caws interrupted her dark impulse. The crows seemed to care about her well-being as she dangled over the edge, with the wind blowing through her raven hair. Camina felt akin to them. For the first time since Matthias had died, Camina did not feel alone. Camina. She returned home, giving life another chance. The crows left, but Camina suspected that if anything happened to her, they would return. Inspired by her ordeal, Camina picked up a brush. In the weeks that followed, she painted her experience using black ink to depict the death leap. With a black cloud of feathers, the murder of crows has saved her life. The experience was transformative and launched her signature black ink surrealist art. After several years, some color pierced the darkness, and this shift of medium expanded her art form. She painted large-scale murals on busy street corners, designed grandiose customers, and recited militant poetry. Camina's art displayed local, innovative tragedies on a large scale, making them impossible to ignore, and everywhere she performed, crows followed. Her performance grew bold and drew the attention of artists who found her style invigorating. She grew close to a group of painters who understood her iconoclastic vision. Her performances launched the large-scale surrealist movement, which became a phenomenon. Her renown grew enough to attract the commission of a multinational enterprise, the VAC label. Camina investigated the group, discovering that they gifted art pieces to select distributor congressmen. VAC's commissioned artists seemed to disappear afterwards. Determined to expose the group's link to corrupt politics, Camina accepted VAC's commission. The following week, Camina painted a giant mural on a cemetery calabarium, displaying the VAC label logo as a surrealist Grim Reaper harvesting the fields of Chilean families. She wore a theatrical dress as she painted, on which she had stitched a poem about political revolution. The piece sparked a radical debate about corruption. The controversy painted a target on Camina's back. After receiving anonymous death threats, she took refuge in her father's house, bringing along her closest friends for safety. That night, a gang of masked gunmen broke into the house. They swiftly subdued Camina and her friends, threw them in a van, and drove off. The following morning, a dry breeze blew sand on Camina's face, awakening her. She was seated in a chair in the middle of the desert, with her legs tied and her hands handcuffed. Her friends were lying on the ground, tied up. A shadow fell over her face. Camina looked up. A man dressed in a long robe with his face hidden in a dark hood approached her. He pulled a silvery knife from his robe. He grabbed her hands and recited a hymn in an unfamiliar language. Camina held his gaze. He paused and brought down his blade with a sudden blow. She cried in agony as her friends woke to a terrible sight. Camina's severed hands falling in the sand. She cried in agony as her friends woke. Oh, I just said that, sorry. The hooded man smiled in satisfaction. How are you going to paint now? Camina cursed and screamed at him, wiggling against her bonds. The man grabbed Camina's chin. She spit in his face. He grunted and pried her mouth open, pulling out her tongue. Camina struggled against her handcuffs. In a violent blow, he chopped off Camina's tongue. Holy crap. She howled in anguish. The man wiped his blade on his robe, leaving a trail of blood. How are you going to recite poems now? Sorrow swelled in Camina's heart, sharper than pain. Overwhelmed by uncontrollable rage, grief, and loss overcome her senses. She had lost her little brother, and she had lost the only way to cope with such pain. Camina screamed like on the day her brother died. Raucous calls echoed through the wasteland. The sky was obscured by a cyclone of dark clouds. Black feathers fell on Kamina's bleeding arms. She looked up and saw a torrent of crows erupting from the clouds, diving on the hooded man. As the ravenous crows pecked at his flesh mercilessly, Kamina smiled, watching her surrealist art come to life. But her heart lurched with rage when she saw the crows move on their next target. Her friends on the ground. She screamed as waves of pain, guilt, and fright overwhelmed her, but it was in vain. The ravenous crows were uncontrollable. Darkness fell over her eyes as her friends' agonizing screams grew more acute. Death was coming, and again it was her fault. A deep black fog engulfed her. That's a really crazy backstory. So, in sums up, she started to live a depressing life until crows made her become like not depressed anymore, and then she was painting, and then she got captured and literally brutally hurt and all that, and then the crows saved her again, which is probably why her hands and her arms are made from ink. She doesn't speak. Alrighty then, that was a really brutal backstory. Holy crap. Well, anyway, her power, Birds of Torment. From a wellspring of eternal agony comes a swarm of darkness, a wild and ferocious murder of ink-black crows. Press and hold the power button to charge a Birds of Torment. Once fully charged, tap the attack button to summon a dire crow. You can repeat the action quickly by continuously holding down the power button and tapping the attack button again. When at least one dire crow is summoned, it stays idle for a limited time. Spawning a new dire crow will extend the time the previous spawned dire crow stays idle. Tap the active ability button to propel the dire crows into flight. Dire crows can inflict damage for a short distance when flying. This is indicated to the killer by the dire crow's flight path. Once a dire crow continues past the flight path, it will no longer inflict damage, but can now pass through any obstacle and reveal nearby survivors using killer instinct. In this phase, dire crows will create a swarm around survivors they hit, allowing the killer to see the swarm's aurora on the survivors. The survivor can repel the swarm by completing the repel action or entering a locker. During this time, the swarm aura is not shown to the killer. A survivor being swarmed will receive damage if hit by a second dire crow. This is a really interesting and a little bit confusing power. I guess we'll just have to see how it works. But it sounds like we summon this thing. If we hit them in a certain range, they get injured. Otherwise, they get crows around them. And then if we hit them again, they get injured, or they can take the crows off. Now her perks. Grim Embrace. Your act of servitude to the entity has not gone unnoticed. Each time a survivor is hooked for the first time, you gain a token. Upon reaching 4 tokens, Grim Embrace activates. The entity blocks all generators for 20 seconds. The obsession aurora is revealed to you for 4 seconds. That's pretty cool. Get your rewards for stuff. Another Scorch Hook. Scorch Hook Pain Resonance. Overwhelming pain reverberates outwards into chaos. At the start of the trial, up to 4 random hooks are changed into Scorch Hooks. You see their auroras in white. Any time a survivor is hooked on a Scorch Hook, the generator with the most progress explodes, instantly losing 9% of its progress and will start to regress. Survivors repairing the generator will scream, revealing their location. I really like that, and that'll also work well with Pinhead's one, so they get regressed to generators, and that one just goes boom. Hex Pentimento. You reveal the true power of the totems hidden within their remains. You see the aura of destroyed totems. You can perform a ritual on a destroyed totem to resurrect it as a rekindled totem. The more rekindled totems that exist, the greater their effects. 1. Reduces survivors' repair speed by 20%. That's crazy. Reduces survivors' healing speed by 20%. Then 3. Reduces survivors' recovery speed from being down. 4. Reduces survivor exit gate opening time. And 5. All totems are blocked by the entity. When a rekindled totem is removed, its remains are consumed by the entity. that is really good because if you manage to get all the totems done, that is really good. I really like this one. That's really cool. But yeah, that's her. She looks pretty creepy, to be honest. The artist, the tormented artist carrying the guilt for the loss of a brother, rises from despair to create surrealist, absurd art. Oh, what is that? Oh, that's a cool animation. That's really cool. Nonconformist dress, an iconoclastic, bold dress designed by her own hand. Sharp palette blade. The absurd edges of reality forge a sharp blade out of palette knife she once used to paint her. But yeah, that's her. That's really cool. I really like her. Backstory is pretty crazy. Her perks are amazing, and her power is really interesting. I like her. So before we have a game as the new killer, let's look at Jonah Vasquez. Jonah is a mathematical mastermind able to use logic to help his team. His personal perks: overcome, corrective action, and boon exponential, allow him to quickly flee, correct failed skill checks, and treat dying survivors. So this is him here. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Alright, his character info. Let's go through his backstory. Jonah Vasquez saw the truth behind the veil. His gifted mind understood numbers in a way few could. Sunset architecture, a blade of grass. He saw more within them than eyes could gleam. He understood the language that explained them. Mathematics, complex equations that continually played out around the universe to determine why and how we exist. Structures, patterns, a law unbroken physics. His gift would have overlooked had his family's history of poverty continued for another generation. But some patterns are meant to deviate from their common course, and Jonah's father strived to better his family, and with every muscle he had. What started as a job picking fruit near Fresno, California, eventually led him owning a small mangrove. It wasn't much, but it was enough to provide Jonah a stable childhood and education. Through placed in advanced classes, there were few signs of Jonah's brilliance to his peers. He was a normal boy with a few close friends, a passion for baseball, and an interest in ancient civilizations. However, when he was alone, his mind turned to numbers, and these to Jonah were the most fascinating of marvels. He delved into Fibonacci and Rickman's sequences and was soon poring over complex equations from leading from history's leading mathematicians. On his 16th birthday, he received an unaddressed card. There was nothing written but the following numbers: 8, 25, 19, 44, 1, 1, negative 20.37, negative 69.85, 13, 2, 26, 11, 1. It was a puzzle, perhaps a gift from his math teacher or a relative who knew of his penchant for solving brain teasers. But somehow this was different. While he immediately recognized the GPS coordinates, quickly discovering they lead to a location in Charl, the other numbers meant nothing to him. Every attempt he made led to failure. Over time, he abandoned the puzzle, convinced it was flawed. He went on to university and upon graduation was hired as a codebreaker by the CIA. On his first day, written in his employee handbook, were the numbers from years ago, the same numbers, and tension in the back of his neck materialized, feeling that he was being toyed with. He returned to the puzzle, only to discover that his years of experience would reveal no new information. He couldn't dwell on it. He had a job to do. He was put to work deciphering messages from signal stations around Europe, archive footage operating in an unknown capacity, simple blinks of light hid complex codes that reveals disjointed information. It wasn't much to go on, but he discovered the messages seemed to involve powerful and wealthy individuals from around the globe. The project was abruptly shut down. All agents involved were transferred to other assignments. Jonah was moved to a covert task force in the newly formed democracy of Wantana, where he intercepted and decoded messages from bands of rebels. His work enabled the US to target numerous rebel locations. Then the bombs dropped. It was discovered too late that the messages were decoys. Civilian casualties were staggering, the true numbers covered up by officials. Jonah blamed himself. He saw firsthand the damage done and the families torn apart. He took a leave of absence but remained in Guantana, surveying the damage. He had to do something. He crashed in his favors with one of the CIA's digital security experts and infiltrated the rebellion's computer network. From there, he took stock of the numbers and made changes he thought no one would notice. Small amounts of money were siphoned from the rebels to those who lost their homes and loved ones. It seemed like a smooth play, undetectable and bloodless, until the day the gunshots rang through his suite. Jonah hit the floor as glass shattered and holes punched through his walls. Grabbing his laptop, he broke his kitchen window and left to the neighboring building's roof. Before he could even rub his throbbing ankles, the small house exploded into flames. He ran, not looking back. He climbed down to the alley, made his way to the slums, and concealed himself among rickety shanties of cardboard and rotting wood. A week later, he arrived at an American embassy, exhausted, dust-ridden, and defeated. Before he could take a breath, he received a call from his chief officer at the CIA. Was it worth it? You over this crusade of yours? He felt powerless, and so he returned his focus to what was simple, what was black and white, numbers. His chief officer gave him a new assignment, one classified to all but a few. His research on the signal stations he reached someone high up, and the project was reopened under a veil of secrecy. Jonah dedicated his time to deciphering the codes, partly out of fascination, and partly to forget the guilt that resided within him. What started with signal stations led to something even more baffling: horror podcasts. In the stories of campfire thrillers and slashers tales from around the world were carefully concealed codes, sometimes numbers, sometimes words, each time as if being a secret password or handshake. He found the following message: sacrifice is rebirth. Hidden in the code was information on a network of powerful people, all working towards what he didn't know. There was chatter of summonings and rebirths, sacrifices and hunts. Jonah assumed much of it was red herrings attempting to mislead. Up late all night, he analyzed another code, this time concealed in a story of vampires. When what he deciphered sent a chill to his spine. The same numbers as before. The numbers had returned. They haunted him. He saw them when he closed his eyes. They clung to his sleepless mind, begging for attention. He checked the coordinates as he had years ago. It was nothing but a Chilean graveyard. He logged into the CIA database and searched the history of the location. Only one hit came up: a cold case where bodies were found in the area, the corpses eaten by hundreds of crows. This could lead to the killer because of the crows. Jonah couldn't let the mystery go on any longer. The numbers had followed him all his life, and he was ready to follow them. Knowing his chief officer wouldn't approve, he booked a ticket to Char without anyone's knowledge. It was time to see what was so special about the coordinates. Less than 24 hours later, he arrived at negative 20.36, negative 69.85. He found himself under the sweltering sun, standing in a graveyard of a ghost town. There was nothing but dust and bones. Jonah spit into the dirt and puzzled over the numbers once more. He slumped next to an old grave, under the eyes of a watchful crow. He missed his home. He missed the mangrove. He missed the time before the complexities of the universe crashed down on him. He looked out at an old derelict buildings on one side and the sweeping desert on the other. There were similarities to Frenzo: the dry heat, the sunset that caused an orange glow on the dusty ground, but it wasn't home, not to him. He looked at it from the eyes of a man who didn't belong. in that space. And then Jonah understood. He was analyzing the code from his own experience, his own view of the world. There was so much he overlooked. With fervorless devotion, he considered what the numbers could signify for other cultures, ancient Egyptian measurements, Persian currencies, and antiquated calendars. He finally understood. He sifted through his knowledge of ancient civilizations before coming to the Tanrian calendar, plugging in the numbers and dates and he converted the first half of them over to the Gregorian calendar. He wasn't prepared for the number it would reveal, his birthday. The world spiraled around him with sweaty palms. He calculated the remaining numbers. It gave him another day. Today. The code. It was about Jonah. At this location, at this moment, his hands shook. His heart pounded against his ribs. Was he part of a prophecy, or had someone led him down this path? He didn't know. For once, the numbers had no longer made sense. A heavy fatigue came over him, and the world shifted in impossible ways. He knew the equations behind nature. He knew what he saw couldn't be. He witnessed his father's mangrove beyond the desert, and felt overwhelming comfort. Crows cawed in the distance, and the smell of citrus wafted on the breeze. He considered that he was once more a child, and the numbers nothing but a horrible dream. Trapped in nostalgic thoughts, he didn't notice the dark flood sweeping from the grass, swirling its way towards him. Crows flew from the branches, screeching relentlessly, flying in a circle above. It was too late when he realized the scent on the breeze was no longer citrus. It was blood. So that's a pretty crazy backstory. Basically, he works for the CIA, he's really smart, and these random numbers that he got to him was very loud, led him astray and led him to the fog. Alright, his perks. Overcome. You've calculated how much energy you can risk to expend. When you are injured, you retain the movement speed bonus for 2 seconds longer. Overcome causes the exhausted status effect for 60 seconds. That's actually really good because 1 Missouri, 2 Missouri. That's actually pretty good. Corrective action. You quickly analyze problems and correct others' work when they make a mistake. You start the trial with 1 token and gain a token up to a maximum of 5 for every great skill check. When a survivor fails a skill check while cooperating with you, 1 token is consumed and their failed skill check becomes a good skill check. That's pretty good because sometimes, your friends might make mistakes. But this could be really good, especially if you're one to get great skill checks pretty easily. And then another boon totem. Boon Exponential. Press and hold the active ability button near a dull or hex totem to bless it and create a boon totem. Shock chimes ring out in a 24-meter range. All survivors within the boon's range recover 90% faster and can completely recover from dying state. That's actually pretty good. But the problem would be is if you're in that area at that time. But he's pretty cool. I like him. He has some good perks. Would be good for teamwork and playing with friends. But this chapter's really cool so far. Oopsie. Okay, so I'm gonna level her up, probably to level 15 if I can, to get 4 perk slots unlocked. And I'll see you in the game. And we're in a game. And we got the new map. Let's go. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, look at this map, her weapon. Oh, that's sick. This map looks so cool though. Alrighty then. Oh, this map's so cool. Oh, look, here's someone. So let's try this out. So this is Birds of Torment. Oh look, I got that chill, looks like. Oh wow, those snipers are big. So I think... Oh wow, trash. cool, cool. So I think if I summon... But how do I shoot it? How do I shoot them? Oh wait, control is launch. Oh, there you go. So we let go of it and quick control to launch. Okay. Alrighty then, let's see her break animation. Yeah, that's pretty cool, pretty cool. It's crazy the sound she makes. Let's try to get on this Scourge Hook over here. Hopefully I can get to that. But this map is really cool. Like we're in like another dimension. The hooks look really cool. What does that mean? Oh wait, that's the Scourge Hook, of course. So if I summon and then I click launch. Oh, that's cool. Let's see a break animation. Pretty basic, but also very cool. So I can summon up to 3. Like that. And then we can see their flight path. So they deal damage in this vicinity. And past that, they just inflict that crow status. Really cool killer shack design, yeah. That's the pallet. So pallet break. Oh, that's pretty cool. She uses both legs. That's pretty interesting. To be honest, it's pretty hard to like use and actually hit survivors. Yeah, it is pretty hard to hit survivors with them, definitely. But I guess if you know survivors are at like a gen or know where they are and you aim them up, you can probably get survivors. Dead hard. Oh, so it doesn't matter where you put them, it's where you look. They get launched. So if I put one here, say I put one here, yeah, it's where I look. So now if I look, no, okay. So maybe they do and they go the way you point them. It is pretty confusing. It is probably the most confusing powers out of killers. It's also very hard to control and use, definitely. It is pretty difficult. I'm going pretty bad this game, to be honest, but I guess we are just checking out the map and the killing. What? I guess. Damn, I've only got one hook, but I guess, yeah. Oh, look at that. That's sick. This map is really cool. This is a really confusing power, though. Let's kill these ink talkers again. Oh, there you go. Did we hit someone? No, it doesn't look like it. Oh wait, we did. No, we didn't. I don't know what I was thinking. I probably could have lunged and got him now. Thought he was gonna cut back. It's very... I don't know. It is a very confusing power to use. Oh wait, I didn't even... like, resurrect the totem. But the totems have to be broken, don't they? I don't think we can change a dull totem. Yeah, look, we can't. The totems have to be broken. That's the one bad thing about the perk. The totems have to be broken. If they didn't have to be broken, it'd be better. So they can destroy them with a flashlight, it looks like. But yeah, the totems have to be broken. Let's see a green totem animation. Yeah, basic. But yeah, the totems have to be broken for us to use the power, like to use that perk. That's the only bad thing. So yeah, I guess. Okay. So yeah, that comes up with that. We summon that, and that's that crow. And then when we press control, they fly forward and they inflict damage in that row. Look, now she's affected by crows. And then they're affected by crows because of my thing. And now he took damage because he was also affected by crows. Yeah. Pretty interesting power. Very interesting power. So the map, I really like the map. Oh, that's her running animation. That's sick. So yeah, really like the map. Her animations are pretty cool. Her like vocal stuff in game. Her power looks pretty cool, but it is still confusing. It is like very confusing. Yeah, you do it, and when at least one Diaco stays idle, extend. Throwing a new Diaco will extend the time of that one, and then it propels it in fight, inflict damage from sword distance. Then out of it, it'll give them those. So, and nearby survivors, that's why, and they'll create a swarm, and then we can see the aurora like we saw. GG. So yeah, it is very interesting. It is hard. To be honest, this is probably the most confusing and hard to use. I reckon like once it comes out, I think around November, the end of November, 1st of December. Once like I play it a lot, someone plays a lot, whatever. You learning it. This is a killer power you really need to learn. Like you need to learn how to use it properly, how to position the Diacros, when to make them take flight. It is a pretty confusing power, but why don't we hop into a game of Survivor now? See you then. And we're in a game. Sadly, we didn't get the new map, but that's all good. I'm using his 3 perks, personal perks. Here we go. Oh. Yep, this is the new killer. There she is. Here's that 2 extra seconds. Oh, that's really good. That is really good. Not like that's really good. Her terror is really cool. But no, that extra 2 seconds actually does help and do a lot. I could imagine from the killer side that being really annoying. Oh, she got some out of it. It's funny how we're all the same guy. Birds. Yeah. That's it. That'd be that boon. So if we want to get down somewhere, we want to get down there. There you go. So if one of us misses a skill check at the moment, it'll be okay, because it'll count as a good skill check. Damn. What you doing, bro? We're about to have this gen. What are you doing? Oh, he messed up a skill check. But my perk, see? I lost the token, so he did it. He messed up a skill check. Okay, so kill system. Oh, there goes some crows. There she is. Oh, she has, I think that's infectious fire. Look at that burn egg bonnet. Want some healing, bro. Want some healing, man? No. Okay. Nice. To be honest, she's going really well. Better than me. Maybe she's had a bit more practice. Like, come on. Like, it is really hard. It's... If Pinhead... Like, obviously we can't make it the same as Pinhead. But if Pinhead didn't come to the game, I reckon it would be a more suitable power type for this one. If you get what I mean. Because this one's pretty hard. Like, you get the Diacrows there. Oh, better go save some people. You get the Diacrows there, right? And then you have to, like, put them in a perfect position. Then make them take flight. Yeah. But it's really hard to position them well, and then survivors are just gonna run past it anyway. So I'd say the best way to use these would be to, like, strike them towards a gen, towards a hook, towards a vault, where you think they're gonna go to where you know they are, and then you'll get them. I reckon that's the best way to use this. But like I said, if Pinhead didn't come to the game, I reckon that'd be a cool way to use this, like, control the crows. I'll take it. But yeah, that perk is really helpful. Oh, there she is. Oh man, I'm used to Xbox. I'm not good with computer controls. Why would you send that down there? Oh, that sound is cool too. It sounds with the ink. You know, I should have just plugged in my controller. I just saw the aurora of it. Oh no, maybe I should have. I don't know. It is a very interesting power. It will. I'll probably play a lot off camera and maybe make another video. I think I'm planning with my friends to make like an analysis video of the map and stuff, because the map's really cool. I really like the map, but yeah, I'll probably play some more. It seems like a really difficult thing to master. Like, I can't get my head, but I reckon the best way would be to hit it towards gens where you think people are, or you know people are, and then also hit it towards vaults or palace you think they're gonna go to, or where you think they are. I reckon that's the best way. But this person's doing really well. Like, I'll give them ups for this. They're doing really well. There you go, I got the crows. Oh, there you go, repel. It's like we're being swooped by magpies. Oh yeah, and they slowly go. Or we can enter a locker. So, I just thought a really powerful perk with her power is Iron Maiden. Because if you don't want to repel and you just want to get a locker, well, boom, coming out of that Iron Maiden, that would be a really powerful thing. Bro. I better be able to get this heal. Oh my god. That was so close. No, I think we're just gonna have to try and get the hatch. How do you drop an item in this? I actually don't know. Oh, is it R? Was that R? Yeah, it's R. Sorry guys, I'm not that up with computer controls. Looks like she's gonna try and find me. Please medkit, because then we could heal and try to go for him. Imagine she has Horda. God damn it. She's camping him. What if I find a totem? Blessed. Do you think you might be able to... Nah, that'll probably take too long. Yeah, she's like sort of camping. Yeah, she saw me. Damn crows. Crap, we're not gonna make it. We did not. What am I doing? Oh, bro, computer controls. That's why I play Xbox. To be honest, I call her a toolkit. But yeah, she did really well. Give her props for that. Give her props for that. But yeah, survivor point of view, his perks are pretty good. I really like the one where it gives you 2 extra seconds of that speed. I wasn't able to get the boon off, but I don't know how helpful it would be. Like, some circumstances, really helpful. Like, during this game, if we had, like, boons everywhere, really good. And the other perk was pretty good when we at the very start, when we're doing that gen. But yeah, pretty interesting. Give it props. props there. What was she using? Yeah. Oh yeah. She uses Grim Embrace and then Cedrus Fast and Fix 5. Yeah, she did really well. Yeah, it's again, I keep saying it, but would be a difficult power to embrace. To be honest, it would be like me. I have Overkiller. I'm gonna get her when she comes out. I could play it for like 3 weeks straight, and I could learn it. But then there's also the fact that I might go play some other killers now and then, and I might. It's a really difficult power. Well, before we end this video, we're gonna go to a custom game and check out her add-on, shall we? First, we'll check out the offering that leads you to the new map. There you go, Crow's Eye. The dark, beady eye shifts back and forth as if searching for a bloody strip of carrion. Alrighty then. So, starting from common, we have Vibrant Obituary. Scrap newspaper speckled with bright eye-catching paint. It seems tragedy is a daily thing. Increase the length of time a dire crow's killer instinct reveals survivor by 1.5 seconds, and obviously that intermediate reveals the survivor's location. Thick tar, sticky, viscous sludge that Chimera used for an experimental piece. Once it sticks to skin, it's nearly impossible to get off. Increases the time for survivors to repel a dire crow swarm by 0.5 seconds. Pretty basic stuff. Increase the oil paints. There's little left but a few globs of black and grey. Yeah, Chimera could paint an expansive landscape with them. Increase the dire crow's killer instinct's detection range by 1.5 meters. And then choclo corn, a type of corn common in South America. A few kernels are reason enough for a crow to stop for a snack. Increase the dire crows stay idle before they extinguish for 2 seconds. Velvet Fabric, a striking red fabric Chimera used on an art project. Its brightness contrasts against the black feathers. When a survivor attempts to repel dire crow swarm, the swarm's aurora remains visible for an additional 1.5 seconds. Untitled Agony, a canvas that was targeted with swipes and thrashes of black paint following Matthias' death. It radiates with heavy, crippling sorrow. When dire crow swarm affects the survivor, inflicts him with the hinder status effect for 1.5 seconds. That's pretty good, to be honest. Still Life Crow, an ink drawing of a dead crow. Chimera's sadness over its death can be felt with each dark line. Increase the time dire crows stay idle before disintegrating by 4 seconds. Festering Carrion, a stomach-churning pile of meat and guts, yet it attracts hungry crows carving a bite. Decreases Birds of Torment cooldown by 0.5 seconds after a dire crow takes flight. I think I used that and then these arms up here, but we'll get to that. Automatic Drawing, an experimental drawing Chimera made without conscious planning, did not think, act. Decreases Birds of Torment cooldown by 1.5 seconds after a dire crow distinguishes from inactivity. Thorny Nest, a nest that remained empty near Chimera's house. There are sharp thorns embedded in it. Survivors damaged by a dire crow afflicted with the hemorrhage and mangle status effect. So that could be like Sloppy Butcher, but it's instead with a power. Silver Bell, a shiny trinket that a crow took a liking to. The clinking of the bell was a distraction to all but Chimera. When dire crows swarm a survivor and inflicts him with the Oblivious stats effect, that can be good. Oh Grief, Oh Lover, an abstract ink drawing that Chimera drew before walking to the death leap. When the dire crows swarm a survivor, it afflicts them with the Exhausted status effect. Okay. Darkness Ink, an unnatural ink so wretched and dark that it seems to pull in all light around it. When dire crows swarm a survivor, it inflicts them with the Blindness status effect. The effect persists for 15 seconds after dire crows are repelled from a survivor. That can be pretty good. Gives them a little blindness there. Charcoal Stick. The dire crow's aura is no longer visible when in flight. The dire crow's aura is visible for 0.5 seconds with summon. severed tongue. Carmina's tongue cut from her mouth shortly before her death. The sight instills rage not just in her but in her crows. Decreases the length of time the artist's movement slows when Diacrows take flight by 0.5 seconds. That's pretty good. And then these what I use. Severed hands. Carmina's severed hands, cut from her arm shortly before her death. The sight brings a sheer fury to her and her protectors. Any survivors near a survivor being swarmed by Diacrows will also be swarmed. So that's why like 3 of them got swarmed at the end there. Matthias's baby shoes. A grieving reminder to Carmina that Matthias would be with her, always watching. Survivors within 5 meters of an idle Diacrow have their auroras revealed for 3 seconds. Ink egg. An unusual egg that seems to be nothing but a ball of semi-solid ink. Increase the maximum capacity of Diacrows by 1. That's pretty good. Decrease the time stay idle before disintegrating 4 times. Now to the cruel ones. Ultra rare. Iridescent feather. A glass-like feather molded from the fog itself. Simple as it may be, it's a symbol of those who watch over Carmina. The artist gains the untactable status effect when Birds of Torment is in cooldown and she holds no Diacrows. Decreases the maximum. That's actually pretty good. Because since it decreases it, which means more iridescent. More undetectable status. That could be pretty good. Garden of Rot. A nude self-portrait in which Carmina depicts a rotting darkness growing outwards from within. When a survivor affected by Diacrows completes a repel action, they inflict by the exposed status effect for 4 seconds. That could be really good because you could be chasing them, and then they just get the crows off, and then bang, they're dead. This one's okay, but this one can be really good in some circumstances. Well, everyone, that was the new killer and new survivor and the new map, which sums up the new chapter, Portrait of a Murder. Hope you enjoyed this video. Tell me in the comments if you would like to see more of the artist before she goes with the PTB, or if any other killers you want to be seen. Not until next time. Bye!